TIFU by letting a goat into the house. Obligatory. This was over a decade ago when I was a teenager. My family lived semi-rural at the time and we kept a few farm animals. My brother, for sake of simplicity I will refer to him as Ralof, had taken it upon himself to adopt a beautiful white goat. This goat was quite young and had been dropped off at our place after its owner, an ex-wife of my older brother, decided she didn't want it as a house pet, but I digress. Ralof loved this goat. It was his pride and joy. He had beautiful white fur and yellowish eyes, and was the friendliest goat you ever saw. Never bucked, let you pet him, and would eat all sorts of things. By contrast, our family's dog, a Rottweiler, was not friendly to the goat. She often paced back and forth at the fence of his pen, growling at him. One time we tried to make them make friends, by putting them both on leashes and then getting them close to each other. This did not work out and probably merits its own story. After that incident, Ralof told us we had better not come near his goat. Our parents also stepped in and told us as much, that was Ralof's goat and we would leave him alone if we knew what was good for us. One fateful Saturday, on Ralof's birthday, long after any drama involving the goat had subsided, our parents took him out for a quality time day trip with just the three of them. We had been tasked with ensuring that the table was set for dinner when they got back, as they were going to be bringing takeout Chinese food home for dinner. We did the smart thing and set the table up as soon as lunch was finished so we wouldn't need to rush it before dinner, and then set to playing around the yard, doing whatever teenagers without electronics did 13 years ago when they played outside. When most of the afternoon had passed and it was close to the time we expected Ralof and Mom to return home, I and my brother were jumping on the trampoline. With a gasp, my brother gestured toward the goat pen. There was the goat, somehow out of its pen, eating grass by the tire swing. We knew this was a big problem, as the dog would doubtless tear that goat to bits. The dog was currently laying in a patch of sun, not looking our way. We thought if we were quiet enough, we'd be able to wrestle the goat back into his pen without the dog noticing. But by this time, the goat was no longer familiar with us. He'd been tended to only by Ralof for so long that he was wary of our approach. We lunged for him and managed to seize him by the horns, in an attempt to drag him back to his pen, which he promptly refused. And then he let out an angry "Ma!" It all happened so fast. We saw our dog sit up straight and look at us, and in seconds she was dashing our way. I shouted at my brother to try head off the dog, while I let the goat free from my grasp. The last thing I wanted was a dead goat. The goat tore off away from the dog, taking a flying leap over the sandbox, its belly impacting the ledge of the sandbox on the way down. He let out a pained bleat and kept running. The dog, despite having been slowed down by my brother, was gaining fast. They both ran in a wide arc around the yard, and as they headed toward the house, I saw my chance. I ran up the back steps and threw open the door, and the goat charged straight up the steps and into the house. I slammed the door closed right behind it, knowing that the dog would have easily gone in after the goat. Our house was laid out in such a way that the back door leads almost directly into the kitchen, which was where we had a rather old and flimsy table and would eat simpler meals at. This was the table we had set up. Immediately after I slammed the door, I heard a thump from inside followed by the unmistakable shattering sound of ceramic plates and cups hitting the floor. At the same time, I heard the sound of the garage door motor opening. My parents and brother had returned, carrying several packets of Chinese food. It was at that moment he knew. He had fucked up. Ralof's immediate response after seeing us standing in front of the back door, making guilty eye contact, the dog eagerly facing the door, was, "What did you do to my goat?" It was like he somehow knew. I tried to explain what had happened, but my parents refused to believe that the goat had gotten out of its pen on its own. My dad had to wrangle the wretched creature, which had made its way to the living room with its muddy hooves, and drag it back to its pen while Ralof was tasked with restraining the dog. I had to clean up the trashed kitchen, which included an overturned dinner table and a host of ceramic shards all over the floor. Ultimately, no one was harmed, but it really sucked watching the others eating Chinese food while I was given dry bread for dinner. TLDR, my brother's goat got out of its pen, and when the dog started chasing him, I let him into the house where he made a mess.